this is Europe trying to scramble to support Ukraine and to be at that table. But again, nothing delights Russia more than to divide the United States from its allies, to demonstrate that Europe is weak and cannot be at that table to decide the fate of its future. So I can't begin to tell you the optics of this are so destructive on so many levels.
European foreign ministers are meeting today ahead of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin's summit in Alaska on Friday. Russia is reportedly demanding conditions including the handover of key Ukrainian cities to guarantee a ceasefire. The Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, says concessions do not convince a killer and has ruled out any land swap. The foreign policy chief of the EU, Kaja Kallas, has said that the US has the power to force Russia to negotiate seriously. Heather Conley is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under President George W. Bush, and she's able to join us now. Heather Conley, good afternoon from London. Why do you think Putin is getting an invitation to the US? So he, after all, is the aggressor. He invaded another country.
Well, I think this is something that President Trump has wanted for a very long time, a one-on-one meeting with Vladimir Putin. And in many ways, this is the fulfillment of that. And he also is extremely keen to secure a peace deal, although the president feels quite confident that he has secured peace between India, Pakistan, Thailand, and Cambodia. What has eluded him are big peace agreements, like between Russia and Ukraine, or even in the Middle East. So this is really a fulfillment of something that President Trump has desired for quite some time, even as he began his second term.
But Putin is going to presumably benefit in propaganda terms from a trip to the States. And President Zelensky, as we speak, doesn't have that invitation. Do you think that's likely to change?
So this is absolutely giving Vladimir Putin a complete and utter gift for doing absolutely nothing. There was nothing that the Russians conceded, not even stopping their military action to have this summit. So I just want to underscore, this is a complete and total victory for Vladimir Putin. And the victory, it just becomes sweeter by the exclusion President Zelensky from these talks. Again, they're recreating a historic moment, the Yalta moment of 1945, when Stalin and Roosevelt with Churchill sat down and carved up Europe. This is the recreation of that in a modern way. This is where the United States and Russia will decide the fate of other European nations by themselves, and they will have to accept it. So it's incredibly destructive, but it's exactly what Vladimir Putin was hoping for.
So this is all about posturing then, and to hell with Ukraine. I mean, is it really as brutal as that?
Well, as I said, I think much is being done in the name of peace and stopping the killing. While those are absolutely laudable goals, and the Ukrainian people would be the very first to say they seek peace and want to stop the killing. This is, I think, in some ways fulfilling President Trump's desire to bring peace. But what he and his administration fail to completely understand, the price of this peace, if it is what's being described as a land swap, they are making lines on maps without Ukraine, without Europe being part of that conversation. It will actually cause greater destabilization. The message here is every country can grab territory if it believes it's in its right or historical place to do so. And we're now bending towards a very different international system. But right now, it's about the summit. It's about the world's attention in Anchorage, Alaska on Friday, and the president coming out and saying he has secured this peace deal.
Right, and the price of that peace deal may very well be paid by the Ukrainian people, who, as we stand at the moment, will not be represented. But
Right.
It would be reasonable, I think, to point out that if you look at the latest polling in Ukraine, I believe that around about 3/4, about 70% of the Ukrainian population do want the war to end. So what do you say about that?
Well, I think it's absolutely understandable after, a decade of war, beginning in 2014, for the last 3.5 years. they're exhausted and they don't see where it ends. So that is completely understandable. I also think the Ukrainian people do not want a peace foisted upon them. They need to be part of that process. They need to make those decisions. What the United States and Russia are proposing goes against the Ukrainian constitution, as President Zelensky has clearly pointed out. So while there's absolute fatigue, they want a just peace. They need to be at that table. And you're absolutely right. It is completely wrong to not have not only Ukraine at this table deciding its fate, but having, of course, key European nations at that table, because they will be providing much of the security and the assistance for Ukraine to remain a vibrant, sovereign nation in the future.
So what about the fact that European foreign ministers are meeting today? To be blunt about it, they're going to have to get a wiggle on and come up with something pretty quickly, aren't they?
Well, and this has been sort of the painful watching over the last 6 months. It has been Europe attempting to be at that table, catch up, be part of the conversation. And it was incredibly ironic as this statement was coming out about the meeting, the summit meeting between Presidents Putin and Trump in Alaska. Vice President Vance was in the UK meeting with the foreign secretary without their knowledge. This is Europe trying to scramble to support Ukraine and to be at that table. But again, nothing delights Russia more than to divide the United States from its allies, to demonstrate that Europe is weak and cannot be at that table to decide the fate of its future. So I can't begin to tell you the optics of this are so destructive on so many levels.
You sound really very depressed in quite a measured way about all this, if I can put it that way, Heather.
Well, it's hard to be analytical and not extremely emotional. I have spent my professional life being an incredibly strong proponent of the transatlantic relationship, strong Europe, strong United States, and incredibly supportive of Ukraine and its reconstruction. And so, yes, the fact that we are contemplating, the United States contemplating making this deal with Putin, the aggressor, over the Ukrainian people, it is a dark moment for the United States. It's a dark moment for the international system. And I hope that a lot of public pressure, and in fact, Vladimir Putin himself, who traditionally pushes too hard, and will do something to prevent this deal from happening. But unfortunately, we are all spectators at what is happening at the moment.
Do you think that Putin has basically played Donald Trump for quite some time now?
Yes, and President Trump has said this out loud multiple times. He's being played, and this is what makes the last several days after Special Envoy Witkoff went to Moscow. It was completely a Russian a victory, a diplomatic victory of having this meeting, agreeing it in Alaska, where you just heard Kirill Dmitriev saying, "We're so glad this is being held in, quote, Russian America." I mean, the symbolism is extraordinary here. And they don't even know they're getting played, or they don't care they're getting played, or they don't care that the Russians are winning on every level. So that's why we just are so frustrated right now that they don't understand that they're actually not supporting U.S. strategic interests at this moment.
Really interesting to talk to you, Heather. I hope there's more cause for optimism in the next couple of days. You never know. Thank you very much.
I hope so. Yeah. Let's hope. Thank you.
Well, no, my pleasure to have your company this afternoon. Thank you. Heather Conley, who's former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under President George W. Bush.